Hello, it's me. Cheers. Happy day after the 4th of July. I got the microphone out. It's right here. So hopefully you can hear me better than last time. Um, Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. It was really nice here. Buffalo's was beautiful this weekend. I went down to Angola, which is along Lake Erie here in Buffalo. What's amazing about this area is, I mean, people don't often realize that we sit right on Lake Erie. So there are beaches. There's beachfront in Buffalo, in the city of Buffalo proper, but you can't swim at those beaches because they're polluted. Because actually, they diverge to a river, the Buffalo River, which was protected by a break wall, and that's where all the dumping was from the days of Bethlehem Steel and probably a bunch of other industries that I'm not even aware of. So you can't swim there, but there is actually beach, which is weird. Not weird, but it's unfortunate that you can't swim there. So if you want to swim in this area, what people do is they either, before COVID, you go up to Ontario because it's cleaner just over the border because I'm 5 minutes from the Peace Bridge into Canada. So people drive up to the beaches that continue along Lake Erie, but in Ontario, Crystal Beach is one of the main destinations. Or you drive down the Buffalo Southern Tier, and literally when you take Route 5 from the city of Buffalo, you just go straight down. Well, it's like south. It's slightly southwest, but it's essentially you just go straight down south, the coast of Lake Erie, and you drive, well, 30 miles, 35 miles to get to Angola, and then the beaches there are right on the lake, and those are awesome. And there are, excuse me, there's a lot of private property there, but there's also some public beaches, and there's also some beach bars, some beach clubs, which are funny because they go after that tropical vibe, so they're painted like you're in Key West, with all this sort of like the bright Floridian colors, blues and yellows and oranges and stuff, and they got all the themed drinks for the beach. But we went down to a bar. Well, I won't name the bar because they don't get a free ad. But we went down to a bar on the beachfront in Angola, and there was a band, and they were not very good. But that's not important because the beach was stacked. There were lots of young people. It was crazy. It was like bikini mania in every weight class that you can imagine, and a lot of drunkenness and a lot of stupidity, but also very festive, and people really celebrating the fact that, at least for the moment, we've got a very low COVID rate in Western New York and a high vaccination rate compared to a lot of places. And it was the 4th of July. So 80-degree weather on the lake, tons of boats, and it was actually spectacular because the bar that we were at and the bar next door both had fireworks right on the beach. And then you can see the edge of the coastline. You can see like beaches like for, I don't know, you can up around the edge of the coastline in both directions, heading north and south. Private properties mixed in with the public beaches and the beach clubs, and there must have been at least a half dozen huge bonfires, like 15, 20 foot stacks of wood in teepee formations and other triangular formations all along the beach right around us, and then all the way up the beach too. So I think literally I must have counted maybe 10, 15 fires on the beach. And then as soon as it was dusk, they started shooting fireworks. And everybody had fireworks. I mean, of course, they're illegal in New York State, but there's very much a look away policy towards that. And obviously, fireworks are pretty dangerous, but people are, I would say, pretty responsible about it around here, relatively speaking, considering the amount of alcohol that was probably consumed on the beach yesterday by the collective mass of humanity that was there. And it was really festive. It was, and the fireworks are going off, and we're watching, and I'm looking down the coast, and you see all the, and I saw all the fires, and I started thinking to myself, this feels tribal. It's hard to explain. It just had such an unusual feeling to it. It felt a little dangerous, because in some sense it is. I mean, obviously you have to stay far enough away from the fireworks. Some people don't, because they shoot them right from the beach over the lake. But you're not that far from them, so you choose your comfortable distance. But the feeling was what was really struck me. Just people are so pent up from everything that we've experienced from the beginning of COVID and the whole election year and the continuing sort of political theater and chaos. And I I really do feel optimistic about the future of the country, but I would also say that I think that the damage that has been done by Mr. 45 is going to take longer to repair than maybe I had initially thought or hoped. It could be it could be a generation, which is maybe, some people might say a generation is 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. But I think that the people who are really still carrying his torch, that's a little fire pun there, they're not ready to give it up yet, and they are delusional, and it has to play itself out, and he has to be more fully marginalized, or he has to, whatever else has to happen to him legally or his health, to so that he is no longer an active influence, because clearly, with the number of people that died in the United States due to COVID, due to his complete negligence and disdain for what was a reality for the rest of us and not a reality to him and some of his supporters, that it cost him the election. So, upon reflection, COVID is the reason we that Biden won to some degree, I think. And you can probably hear some extra fireworks going off now. People shoot them all around the holiday. And I may have discussed this in a video before. It's not really, that really wasn't the point of this video, but that I think that in some ways it is highly possible that we, the collective of humanity, we created COVID somehow. It became the only way to course correct. It became the only way to defeat this would-be tyrant. And I think that it may finally be dawning on some people who didn't necessarily believe before just how close we were teetering to losing our democracy, and how the fight isn't over. And that's not to be a downer, because things are going in the right direction. They really are. But it's going to take time. It's really going to take time. And so I guess I'm not watching as much news as usual. I try to keep my consumption in a healthy spot. And I really just try to do things that are fun and positive, and take advantage of what a nice summer we're having in this region, and just enjoy where we're at, live in the now. As Cindy once said on her channel, enlightenment is to live in the moment, in the light, which is a nice sentiment. So I biked this afternoon. I biked out to the harbor. It's a it's an almost I've got like a 20-mile bike ride that I do usually at least once a week. It's pretty intense. I like it though. I like a good sweat. And so now that my heart rate is up from the afternoon, I have a shot of whiskey and some ice cubes, and I took a Xanax, and this is how I get to sleep. I mean, on nights that I ramp my heart up by biking to the harbor. So this is my wind down cocktail with you. Oh, I just spilled some on myself. Nice job. So, but I also wanted to mention, while the feeling is still fresh, that I had a sensation today, a few hours ago, that was really unusual. I gotta try to figure out how to describe it. But you may have heard many times that supposedly there are a lot of light workers on the earth at this time, and that it was a multi-generational plan, that that it began with the baby boomers, the kind of almost the hippie generation, who were the first wave, and then followed by Gen X, which is my generation, and then the millennials, and then whatever they call them, the indigos or Gen Z, or I don't even know. But that, in some sense, Spirit sensed, knew that there was going to be sort of a forthcoming crisis on Earth at this point in time. And it also ties in with astrological cycles that are quite strange, that really do lend themselves to an interpretation that we are going through, like a sort of very dodgy, very dangerous, very transformational period, and that we're also going to come out on the other side into the light more fully. And I think of what Sterling says about the earth is going to be undergoing rapid change for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And when he says it, to me, I think that this will be true environmentally, but I also think it will be true politically, socially, and I think that all of this light worker stuff is real. And it's funny for me to talk this way, because as a teenager, I just would have laughed this off. I just would have laughed this out of the room. It would have just seemed ridiculous. And even use some of the phrases, I still sometimes cringe a little bit, because I don't want it to sound too much like, new age gobbledygook. But it seems to me that it is true that our spiritual community, of which I do consider myself a part, is a real community, and that we don't all have to agree on all of the beliefs that go along with being part of a spiritual community, but it has grown very organically from the YouTube psychics, and that's why I got so excited just to be a small part of it, because I'm kind of a fringe player, but I like to think that I come from a unique perspective that can maybe add to the conversation. That's all. That's what I'm trying to do, to help, and feeling like that I am a community member, and then therefore I can do that and be helpful by reflecting somewhat on what some of the other readers are talking about. I just talked myself into a circle there. What was the point of that? But what I'm getting at is I think I was watching maybe Linda G's video today with Danny Shea. And Danny was really kind enough when I reached out to him at the beginning of the year. I reached out to him and I reached out to Kim Carey at Intuitive View to ask if they would consider, sort of sharing what I was doing with my book readings with their audiences, and both of them took me up on it, and that's amazing. I mean, I felt very funny asking for that, but yet if you don't ask, you don't receive. And I thought, what the hell, why not, right? And they were both really kind enough to feature me, especially Kim, by interviewing me on her channel, which was really cool. And then now we have this small audience from my channel, but small but enthusiastic audience, which I really appreciate, which I'm grateful to have to share with. And so I'm watching the Linda G and Danny video, and I'm thinking about, they're talking about all kinds of different things, like 45's legal problems and the Delta variant. And it's just sinking into me how this Lightworker plan is really real. Not that I didn't believe it before, but I think you know what I mean. Some days you feel it more than other days. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all have our beliefs, but some days when the day is just maybe not quite right energetically, you don't feel that feeling in your heart the way you want to. You know it, like, more intellectually, that yes, I want to be part of this positive energy. I want to put my positive prayers out into the world. I want to be part of the helping the world to the next stage, but then maybe you doubt your individual power. And yet we do have a lot of influence. We do have a lot of power. You know, my long-standing sort of, I'm repetitive on this point, but I'm always saying that thoughts and prayers are energy, and that in a quantum universe, thoughts and prayers, like when they're directed towards an undeclared quantum universe, of all possibilities, that we can help influence which possibilities manifest into reality. And I really want to believe that has some truth, even if it takes time to see the results of that. So that's why it was fun and meaningful to pray for Fran last week, when we prayed for Fran, because she's having issues with her eyes, and I think she sees a specialist. And I asked everybody to pray, and we did pray, and something pretty neat happened, which I was writing about an hour ago, and I hope I haven't shared this already, but I'm actually forgetting if I did. We did the prayer video, and a bunch of you were really kind enough to participate in praying for Fran. And she said that the next day that she felt like there was a little less distortion in her vision. I don't know that I was expecting a miracle, like a cure for her eye issues, but I certainly thought it wouldn't hurt, and maybe we would get a pleasant surprise and a greater improvement than we were expecting. But the neat part about it that I was writing about today is that I prayed for Fran in the video, and then that night, when I went to bed, I woke up at 5 in the morning, and I was just unexpectedly awake. You just roll over and you're awake. And I decided just to drop in one more prayer for Fran while I was awake. And as I started to pray, I heard a bird singing outside my window. at dawn, really pre-dawn. And I didn't think about what kind of bird it was at first, but it was really cool. And it sang for the duration of the time that I prayed. And then when I stopped praying, it stopped. And then I went back to sleep. And then the next day, Fran and I exchanged emails, and she was grateful for the video that had been done and grateful to everyone like you who participated in prayers for her. And she related that that morning, the same morning that I heard the bird, she was unexpectedly awakened by a bird singing. She said that had never happened to her before. The really cool part ended up being that after we both thought about it a little more, I realized it was a cardinal. And we only have a pair of cardinals in the neighborhood this year in the city. But last year when we had the cardinals, maybe even the same couple, they would sing often at dawn as the first bird and often at dusk as the last bird. So I don't know how that works with cardinals. But what Fran said, so she's in California, I'm on the East Coast. So I heard it at about 5 a.m., but she also heard it about 5 a.m. But they don't get cardinals in California where she is. So she attributed it to a time warp that she heard my cardinal 3 hours after I heard my cardinal. And I said, well, it's not just a time warp, it's like a space warp. It's like a portal, because if this is true that she heard my cardinal here, then that means a kind of a somewhat of a portal may have opened between the spaces across the coast, and that they built in the time delay too, so that my 5 a.m. cardinal gets heard by Fran at 5 a.m. California time, 3 hours after it actually happens here. Because like I said, they don't get them in California where she is. And we were both sure it was a cardinal. And we both came to that conclusion independently. Then, to top it off, if I may, yesterday, before I went to the beach, I was lying on the couch in the afternoon, and I was lying on my back looking out the front window of my house, which is on the second floor, and I heard the cardinal, and it was on the porch. But I was lying down such that I couldn't see it. So I was like, is it really the cardinal? Because I really want to know if it's the cardinal again. And it was almost like, once I asked, is it really the cardinal again, kind of like, can I see it? Without my moving from the couch, it flew from somewhere over the side by the door, out of sight, into sight in the tree. And it jumped from 2, 3 different branches, and then I clearly saw it. It was obviously the cardinal. I was like, oh my gosh, it is the cardinal. And that was the song. And then the cardinal flew away. So sometimes you get those amazing validations from spirit through nature. And it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So I wanted to share that with you too. And it'll be in the next book. I kind of wrote a draft of it that's a little bit, draft's a little awkward. I wasn't exactly, excuse me, in my prime writing mode when I started writing it, but I wrote it anyway. And I'll fix it later so that it's better. But that was pretty neat. And like I said, going back to Linda's video with Danny, it was really sinking in on me that we really, this spiritual community, such that we are, with our imperfections and our differences of opinion and our differences of belief, we are all rowing in the same direction. We are all on the same page in a way that is very, when you really step back from it, is a little miraculous because most of the YouTube psychics that we've come to admire and enjoy all started in 2020. Most of them, there's a few that started earlier, but most of them popped up in 2020, and then one after the other, they popped up one after the other, like out of necessity. And somehow the ones that we gravitate to seem to be the same ones, because there's a lot more psychics out there. I see some of them with really slick videos, and the slick videos usually are a little bit of a turnoff to me, and sometimes my intuition or whatever's going on tells me, yeah, that one's not for me, but this one is. So you know who we're talking about, but like Kim Carey and Linda G and Sterling and Nines Tarot, and I don't want to do the whole list because I'm not going to remember them all because I'm a little tired. But certainly Danny Shea, and now I'm enjoying Kim Copeland, and I'm trying to think of who else I'm watching more lately. I know I'm forgetting some, but they all do seem to cross over and cohabitate, right? Andrea with, what is it, Lilac Lantern, Cindy at Soul Print, who I really have always liked. She's one of the first ones I really started to watch, and I still really kind of vibe with her. And Marianne, Revealing Light is really good. And there's others, so forgive me for forgetting some. But when you really think about how organically that grew and how everybody found each other anyway, that's mysterious too. I mean, yeah, YouTube has algorithms that help you find similar things or what similar people are watching, but it is very interesting. Oh, Diane's Tarot, Whimsy too. That it is very interesting that somehow the people who seem to believe the similar things are moving in the same circles in an organic way, not an artificial way, not like because they have to or they feel like these are the ones you watch because you must. No, it flows, it's organic, it's loose, it's as free and as loose as I like to think of spirit being, which is in some ways the opposite of religion, which is tight, dogmatic, by the book sometimes. Not all of them, and sometimes it depends on who you get as a, say, a pastor or whatever the religious leader for a specific church is. Excuse me. And you don't get, you don't. It doesn't feel. It feels more obligatory than loose. Whereas here, if I have a day where I want to watch, like you just feeling like, you know what, I'm vibing with Cindy today or whatever, or I'm vibing with Linda G today, and I'm not vibing so much with so and so, and you can navigate that, and yet it still all feels like part of a one thing going in the right direction. Like everybody wants the same things from this. We want truth. We want truth, more truth in the world. We want honesty. We want light to win out over this delusional darkness that has sort of become like an infection. And you could say that the desperation of those on the dark side is really showing, because they keep saying more and more outlandish things that I don't think are going to help them next year in the 2022 elections, because they're they're they sound nutty, and the nuttiness comes from desperation. And some psychics have attributed this desperation to they know or they feel intuitively that their time is coming to a close. Not that there won't be strife on Earth if every QAnon, GQP type person is taken off the map, but That didn't exist in America 10 years ago, and we know who the enabler is. And so it's going to take some time to work its way out of the system. But the way it works its way out of the system is actually the way it's progressing, which is that they come off as so unreasonable and so unhinged and not tied to reality that they've got their little cult, but the majority is going to continue to see that is a road to ruin. And the relative popularity of Biden and his policies is the proof, because of a significant majority of the country is on board with him, and his vaccination goal of 70% was almost met somewhat remarkably by July, which is incredible. There has never been a mobilization like this in the history of the country. I know I read that the technology, the mRNA technology, has been something they've been working on for several years leading up to this. I don't know how much they anticipated this kind of an event being the catalyst for bringing that technology into practice, and you may have some concerns about vaccines, as we all do, but you can't really argue with the result. The result is that Buffalo hit 0.5 cases per 100,000 people last week. That means in our city of 1 million people, there were 5 cases, new cases. That's incredible. Did I get the math right? 10 cases? No, 0.5 per 100,000. So 5 cases among 1 million people. That's almost eradication. There's been a slight bump from the Delta variant. Now we're up to 1 case per 100,000. So that means there's 10 people out of 1 million in the entire greater Buffalo region that have contracted COVID recently. But the Delta variant is primarily protecting the majority, or at least preventing them from becoming deathly ill, to where it's maybe more like a regular flu. And that's incredible, because when this thing started, well, not when COVID started, but when the vaccine started to get rolled out, it was the beginning of the year, right when I started doing my videos. And the result was unknown. And often, being still in the depths of winter, I was very afraid that it wasn't going to work. And then I thought that we would really truly be lost. Like, what if these don't actually work? And what if this is the new normal? But it's not. They do work. Yes, there will be some people who have bad side effects. Yes, there are probably some people who shouldn't take it for whatever medical reasons they have. But you can't really argue with the net effect of the numbers, because in regions that are more vaccinated, the numbers are plummeting. And now we're seeing a red state, blue state divide that is actually really sad, because it's a continuation of the same bullshit that's been going on since last year. But the suffering, they're primarily bringing it on themselves by refusing the vaccine and refusing the facts. And I think that spirit and reality, they cut you a break right up to a point, and then they can't protect you anymore because you have free will. So if you decide that you're not going to do the vaccine that seems to be proven to work because you don't believe in it, I would say that that's a dangerous position on the whole, and really unfortunate. Not to say that everybody would do well with it, but far more people are doing well with it than are not. And when I also read that currently the United States on the whole is 50% vaccinated, like both doses, and then it varies a lot by region. And I think on the whole, the United States is at somewhere close to 70% of like people who've had at least one shot for the entire population. The global vaccination rate around the world is 10%. That's really bad, which means that states like other countries that don't other countries that don't have our vaccines or are using an inferior vaccine, like the Chinese and the Russian vaccines, are dodgy, and you can't get all the stats because they don't want to share it. But especially in Russia, it isn't going that great right now, and it's so ironic that it's everything I would have predicted. Autocracies do not produce the best results in medical emergencies or any other kinds of emergencies because they don't have the free thinking of free people. If you have a populace that's afraid, a populace of scientists in a country, hypothetically Russia, that feel pressure to create a vaccine without knowing whether it will work, but the government says, get it done because we got to have one. Well, that's all well and good until you actually roll it out. And it turns out, I think I read in the New York Times today that like the Russian population is only at 10 or 15% vaccination. That's terrible, using their own vaccine, because they're not mandating it yet because Putin doesn't want to go there. But it's gonna fuck up their economy, because if it all surges there or it surges in the southern states, the red states in America, now it's going to start eating their pocketbook, because people are not going to go out as much. They're not going to take the risk. Some will, but they're not all going to. And businesses, if you ran a business and you were looking for a place to establish a new home office, where do you think you would set up your new home office? Would you set it up in the dominantly vaccinated state or the not vaccinated state, where you could get all kinds of extra problems and shut down? So as usual, it's not the doing the right moral thing that is moving some of these Republican governors to now beg their populaces to get vaccinated, whereas before they were not. They're starting to see the writing on the wall of what not getting their countries vaccinated is going to mean. And that's, you get them in the wallet, and that's something some people, that's all they understand. They won't come around until it's their wallet. The moral side, they don't care at all. But the wallet, they care. And again, I'm going a little bit in circles. Hi, Gabe. Gabe's here. We'll say hi to Gabe in a minute. Actually, we'll say hi to Gabe right now. I have to turn this around, so let me see if it works. Hey, Gabe. Gabe, say hi. Where are you? Gabe, say hi. Say hi to the nice people. Say hi. Say hi, buddy. I can't get the camera right because I can't see it because it's backwards. Where are you? Are you in the camera? I can't tell if you're in the camera. Say hi, Gabe. This is Gabe. We'll do an interview with Gabe sometime soon. I hope I got him. I couldn't see the camera when I had it to turn it. But again, sorry. Hold on. again, I had that strong sense. Sorry, Jesus Christ. Somehow, again, I had that strong sensation that the light worker plan, the generational light worker plan, that the boomer generation, my mom's generation, first wave, and they had it the hardest because they were starting from scratch. And then the Gen X was our generation, my generation, and we came up next to do our part. And then the next generations, it's on them next. And I also believe what I read somewhere that a lot of Gen Xers in particular, myself included, are not having children because of our point of view of humanity is a little. We don't have the best view of humanity on the whole. We have a high opinion of the light workers, but on the whole, we see the egotistical, selfish behavior really, really strongly among our generation on the whole, and it's a drag. And I could never get myself around to the idea of raising a child in these circumstances. So, supposedly, according to some readers, the Gen Xers, we're going to check out. I don't mean we're going to kill ourselves. I mean, like, having a kids is not our priority. We're here to do our job. We're here to do our light worker job, and then we're going to get out. And by not having children, or a lot of us not having children, then we don't leave the karma behind, and so we don't feel bound. And then wherever else we go from there, God only knows, because God only knows what other lives I've already had, assuming I have had other lives. I have some insight into that, and from what I've been told in astrological readings, my previous lives were not unlike this one on Earth, where I was rebellious against authority, questioning of authority, that my life had a spiritual component, but that I was often thwarted by the formal religions and the powerful, and that I was perhaps even prosecuted for my spiritual beliefs, which are outside of doctrine. And all of this strikes me as true, or quite possibly true, and also speaks to some of the fears I have about authority, because authority, when it chooses, is illogical. I mean, 45 is no better example. He's probably one of the worst examples of the last 100 years of someone who ignores all evidence, ignores any question he doesn't like, redirects to a diatribe, to a speech that is devoid of truth in an effort to bury what a truth teller might say under an avalanche of bullshit and noise. And it's very effective sometimes. It wears down the will of the opposition to fight, because you're fighting lies all the time. So you can never really nail those people down, because as soon as you do actually nail them down, they just say that they didn't say what they said. So it's very insidious. And I don't think that they have any hope of getting away with it in the next world. But that doesn't make it more pleasant for us in this world. And so the boomers who came to be light workers, to Generation X's who came to light workers, surely the millenniums who came to be light workers, they get wiped out. It tires them over time, it wears them down, and then they choose whether they're gonna procreate and still be a part of the planet, or we're gonna do our little light worker job, and then we're gonna get the hell out of here and try to leave Earth in a better state than we found it. So I think that at my age, I expect to see, I won't say 10 to 20, 30 more years of chaos, but it's going to take time. And really the biggest one is nailing 45 in whatever way that takes. whether it's through his businesses, bankrupting him, keeping him in court in any imaginable way, just to like make it impossible almost for him to operate as a political being, like just keeping him on his toes with court. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes, and then you hope you run the clock out on him without wishing him death. We maybe wouldn't cry a lot if that's what happened in a few years. Well, the nicer people would still cry. And I could even someday envision perhaps being empathetic to his patheticness, but not right now, because the war is still on. But I actually had started this video with really the intent to spread the positivity, because like I said, I was watching Sterling and I was watching Danny, and you know what I felt? I felt not that they either know me super well, but I realized that maybe for the first time in a long time, I was like, these are kind of my people. Like, there is a community. And again, we don't have to agree on everything, but outside of the confines of biblical doctrine, we are more free to believe what we want to believe about spirit. And when we're operating from love, good intentions, faith, hope, joy, when we are filling the spaces that we fill on a day-to-day basis with as many of those qualities as possible, then that's, excuse me, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's how we contribute. You don't know how you affect another person when you are unexpectedly kind and unexpectedly non-judgmental, but you can see it play on their face sometimes that they're grateful for your generosity of spirit. Getting warnings on my phone about battery. I don't know, and there were texts that were coming through, so I don't know if you saw text pop on the screen. I don't know how that works. But regardless, excuse me, I think that's my rant. But it was more just to celebrate the community, actually, and to say we're going to keep praying for Fran and her eyes. She should have some information about whether what they can do about her eyes. And also, I meant to say much earlier to give you an update on Ellie the squirrel. Thank you for praying for Ellie the squirrel. Thank you so much. It's really kind of you to honor my request to help her heal. We haven't seen her a lot. She was around a few days ago, and now we got a little neighborhood. We got a neighborhood network working on it. My neighbor Rose, who has saved so many cats, feral cats in this neighborhood, it's not even funny. She's a superhero of cat rescue. She's got a friend down the block who goes by the name of Vibby, with a V, Vibby. And Vibby also gets visits from Ellie the squirrel, who we're worried about because she has the growth on her face. And when Vibby saw Ellie the other day, it looked like it started to drain, which could be a really good sign. So we have conspired among us with my mom's assistance. My mom mixed a degree of antibiotic that is okay for these animals into peanut butter balls, so that if Ellie comes around, we can give her a dose of antibiotics with the peanut butter balls. I didn't see Ellie at all this weekend, unfortunately, so I haven't seen her in almost a week. I gave some of the peanut butter balls to Vibby with the instructions on how much to give. And I'm hoping to hear from Rose, maybe an update from Vibby. So Vibby lives down the block, and apparently she might be trained for wildlife rehab too. You can't own a squirrel. You can't take in a squirrel around here, and Ellie is a wild squirrel anyway. But I've shifted my prayer a little bit for her, and you can shift yours too if you like. But my new prayer for her is I'm praying that she be healed, but if she cannot be healed, then for Spirit to let her go, take her. Don't let her suffer. Don't let her suffer unnecessarily for an extended period of time. If it's her time, if she's got an infection which is only going to cause her misery, then take her. We'll miss her, but now I see her son every day. He comes up the tree, and I communicate with him, and he's not quite ready to leap on my lap yet, but he'll come for peanuts at my feet, and I see a beautiful kind of continuity of behavior and feeling. When I see him, he looks like her. He looks at me like her. He's trying to figure me out, and he's being appropriately cautious while also expressing some comfort and coming closer to get the peanuts. Now, he won't take them directly from my hand like Ellie did, nor climb up my lap, and that's okay, and maybe he never will, and maybe that's an appropriate distance for a squirrel anyway. But in her absence, I was also struck that it was kind of cool that he was around, that there was some continuity, and my more sincere hope is that she's back up too, that she comes back, but we don't know. So there's your update. I apologize for the delay in updating you. And hopefully we're going to see her and we're going to know more. But that's what we know today. So if a summary is necessary, I would say that we do have a community. We have a spiritualist community of some kind. And the less we define it, the better, because we don't need the definitions, the hard definitions, because that's what religion does and always gets itself in trouble. They call themselves something, like, I'm being extreme, but you call yourself Catholic. Well, when a faction of the Catholics doesn't agree with another faction of the Catholics, they split off and they become the Protestants. And it's ridiculous, because they have the same essential beliefs. That was a good drop. It's ridiculous because they have the same essential. Oh shit! Sorry. Oh my god. What the hell? Okay. Because the Protestants and the Catholics have the same essential beliefs, but they just disagree over certain aspects of doctrine, and then they decide to just, no, we can't deal with you. Split it in half. Ridiculous. Shiites and I can't remember the other faction, of the Muslims. Shiites and, oh, where did that go? Shiites and, they were having that problem in Iraq before Saddam was deposed, because it was Shiites and the other faction, and they're fighting and killing each other over minute discrepancies in interpretation of religious doctrine, which is why it's so stupid. Whereas I would say, not that our community has it perfect, but by operating more loosely without codifying everything, turning it into a religion, we keep the emphasis on what's important. And what's important is love in all its forms, which includes generosity and kindness, hope, and avoiding fear as much as is possible. So, love, hope, light, and minimizing fear. And when I feel this, as I do right now, then I think that we have a good chance of accomplishing our goals. That if we were sent here on a little mission to help improve the world as it enters its next phase, which is going to include global warming, continued civil unrest, probably lingering struggle with COVID, globally at least, for another good 5 years. We're here to do a job, kind of, and we are succeeding, I think. I think we're doing what we came to do. And we're rowing in the same direction, even though we each row a little bit our own way too. And this to me reflects the freedom and openness of spirit in a positive way, instead of like the drudgery of ritual, like we must do it this way, we must pray this way, we must think this way, we all have to think this way in order for this to be effective. No, it's got to allow for the air, for the breathing of it, so that it's a living philosophy. And that if we learn more things, learn more about how we can improve our effect, then we will incorporate it. Much like what the Dalai Lama said, where he said that Buddhism isn't a fixed religion. He said, if science evolves such that it disproves aspects of the beliefs of Buddhism, then Buddhism will have to change. That is so wise. So we too should, in my opinion, be open to change if we learn new things about spirit that contradict maybe earlier beliefs. So this video is quite long, far longer than I expected. I'm not even really sure it's any good, but I'll put it up. We'll see what you have to say. I did want to give you the Ellie update at the minimum. If there's more about her, then I will be back for that. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with her. I sure hope she comes through, because she's such a treat and she's so unique. But I also hope that she doesn't suffer, because there's enough suffering. And if suffering is her future, leading to eventual death, then let's just get to the death part and set her free. Right? Okay. Be well. I think this qualifies as a tangent video. And I look forward to your feedback if you have any. And I wish you a very peaceful week. Very peaceful week. And I can feel this kicking in, which hopefully means I'm going to fall asleep soon. I didn't even drink that much of it, but I can feel it. It's Japanese whiskey on ice. The ice is melted, so now it's actually appropriately watered down. And I'm not sure, this is non-medical advice, but if you're having quite a day, a Xanax and a glass of whiskey is a pretty good way to end it. Okay, take care. Bye.